Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Janai and this is Karmic Fixer Tarot. And it's the first day of February. Happy Black History Month. And yeah, I wanted to just do a quick reading. I'm going to try a new spread, a Law of Attraction spread. And I'm going to see what Spirit has to say to me about what it is I'd like to attract this month and going forward in general. So I'm going to do a quick little shuffle. And then based on the spread, it's the first time I'm trying the spread. I actually got the idea for it from this book called Guided Tarot. And as I'm still learning, I'm still learning different spreads. I don't generally do specific spreads. I might just draw three cards and from there, kind of the story, the narrative that Spirit wants to show me. I can see it in probably those three cards and maybe just looking at the bottom of the deck. But I think I am going to try doing specific spreads just to get the practice. And something, I went to I think I'm bouncing around. I'm starting one idea and bouncing to the next one. I don't mean to ramble, but the idea that the thing that made me want to maybe try doing different spreads was an online tarot meetup that I did about 2 weeks ago. And I was practicing reading for online clearance, and I think it's a really fun practice. And there was a new tarot reader, I guess somebody newer than me, and she was wondering how it is that readers put together a narrative, how they manage to, I guess, tell the story of what the cards are trying to communicate to the querent. I think I didn't have the chance to tell the querent, give them this particular suggestion because it was a timed session and ran out of time. But I think a good way, if somebody's starting tarot and they want some guidance on how to tell the story, how to understand what story the cards are trying to tell, or what narrative, or what overall picture the reading, or what overall picture the cards are trying to lay out. A good way, I think, to practice that is to practice different spreads. Any sort of tarot guidebook, maybe not, well, some guidebooks do, but maybe getting a book in general on tarot, learning the cards, and learning how to be a reader. Usually, those books will come with at least one spread that you can practice. And using spreads that have been created by other readers is a good way to start. I think it's a helpful way of guiding the narrative, guiding the way you can read the cards, giving you a context for reading the cards in a specific way. So I think that's a good way to start. So if I see this particular querent again, maybe in another meetup, I'll give them that suggestion. But yeah, that's part of the reason why I am practicing different spreads. So I've given these cards a shuffle, and I think the next thing I'm going to do is pull a significator card. I'm still learning the lingo, but pulling a significator card and setting an intention, and from there I'll pull the rest of the cards for the law of attraction. So let's move ahead to the significator. Alrighty, so I've adjusted my screen and we're going to pan down for the cards. Please pardon my sheet. I've just noticed that there are little cat hairs on it. I've got a white cat and his hair gets everywhere, so pardon my little housekeeping there. But yeah, so I've set aside my significator card and I will set that forward in just a moment. I'm going to do another little shuffle here. I'm using my Hoodoo deck card because at first I had a little bit of trouble connecting to this deck. I think I was putting a little too much pressure on it, um, as it's a deck that's reminiscent of or significant of the Hoodoo tradition in the Southeast US. And I don't know. I guess I was putting too much pressure on it. I was trying to read it as far as doing ancestor veneration, something that I'm new to, and I don't necessarily have a very strong connection to either side of my family really. So I was stressing myself out, and I was having a hard time connecting to this deck originally. But I gave myself some space from it, and as a rule, you don't necessarily want to come to tarot when you're in duress or when you're stressed out or when you're unsure. I think that kind of clouds your intuition, get into anxiety and things like that. And I think that can get in the way of having a good reading or connecting with the cards. So that might be one thing to remember. So I've shuffled. I think I'm going to cut. So cut. And to start, I have my intention card. The card that I pulled is the Mother of Coins. And in the Hoodoo deck, of course, the coins is Pentacle, and the Mother is a suit card. I think she represents the Queen. So she is the Queen of Pentacles, aka the Mother of Sticks. And I pulled this card because one thing that's definitely on my mind is financial stability, but not just finances. The interesting thing about the suit of pentacles, or in this case, the suit of coins, is that the coins, they can represent money, they can represent literal money, but coins slash pentacles tend to represent one's assets, one's physical world, not just money, but maybe anything that you've collected, assets that have grown over time, whether that's resources, finances, whether that's skill that you've acquired and that you've built on over the years. Um, Generally, your treasures, any treasures that you lay up here on earth, I think that's represented in the pentacles, or in this case, the coins. And the queen represents a mastery, I think, of those resources. It's an energy of, I think, being comfortable in those resources, allowing those resources to work for you. Um, Sort of a receptive energy, being in a place where you can receive, but a place where you are a good steward of the resources. As such, you can use them to help others and to help yourself. I think this card represents a woman who is secure in her resources, a woman who, this represents soft life, I think. A woman who is secure in what she has, a woman who's a good steward of her resources, a woman who can marshal her resources to be of benefit to others, but also to herself. She can pour into herself with the resources that she's amassed over time. And this card seemed like a really appropriate card. I'm in a space where I would love to be a better steward of my resources, and as a better steward of your resources, you're more likely to grow your assets, more likely to manifest, more financial stability, more more skill, and maybe your chosen profession, just an ability to manifest abundance in general, the things that you want so that you can be your best self for yourself and for others. So this is the first card in my Law of Attraction spread, and I'm going to pull another. The next card in the spread is my current energy. So let's see. This is card number two. Oh, three of coins. And my next card is the energy that I need, or the vibrational match that's needed to achieve my desires. So let's see what card that is. Seven of coins. Interesting. And my fourth card is how to get into alignment. It's the internal or external action needed. in order to shift my energy to match my desires. So 6 of coins. And finally, my fifth card, letting go of the how. It's what I have to do to release control of the outcome by staying open to the unlimited number of ways that I can manifest my desire. And that's definitely something for me to bear in mind. I'm always kind of concerned about how something's going to happen, but sometimes you don't know how something's going to happen. There's certain things that are within your control, and there's certain things that are not within your control. And that's the thing that I'm learning. I'm learning how to control what I can and to let go of anxiety over the things I can't control. So let's see what card. 8 of coins. So these are all of the coin slash pinnacle suit, and that's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to take a look at these cards and I will return with the reading. Let's see. This is a very interesting. Okay, you can see me kind of running my, searching for the doggone mouse on my screen. And I will be right back with my reading after I've mulled over these cards a bit. Okay, so I'm starting with my 3 of coins, and this is the energy that I'm currently in based on the spread. And it's interesting. The 3 of coins represents an energy of collaboration, an energy of growing, growing your connections, growing in your field. It's kind of it is an energy of collaboration, and it's a multiplier energy, I think. And this is the stage where I feel like I'm coming out of a hermit phase where I'm really realizing that the best way to get ahead is through collaboration, sharing what it is that I have and being receptive to what others have. Let's see. I think this card, it's very interesting. We see a woman who appears to be a mystic or a reader or a divinator or somebody who's skilled in the spiritual arts. She's got her scrying crystal. She's got her money clip and I guess her root working jar and whatnot. And this is a woman who I believe is somebody who is of service to others, but I think she also recognizes that what she provides, even though it's esoteric, and I think maybe on some level as a growing tarot reader, it's something that I can relate to, even though she is supplying esoteric services. Or if this were to apply to somebody who isn't a tarot reader, they're applying their own service. They're using the skills that they have to not only be of service to others, but to also provide a livelihood for themselves. So I think this card represents a willingness to know your worth, willingness to kind of, put your shingle out in the marketplace, let people know what it is what it is that you do, what it is that you have to offer as a trade. And I think the money, of course, represents that. And she's got like a nice little knot there, it looks like. So I think this is a lady who is showing up in her skill, and it's at the early part of the suit, so it's in the threes. It's, ace, the two, and then the three. So this is still early on in the suit, early on in the sequence. So she's starting out. And probably the hardest thing to do is to just get out there and do it. And that's what this represents. And I think this is appropriate to the energy I'm currently in. So I really like this card as a representative of my current energy. So next, let's take a look at. Okay, next on to the 7 of coins. This card represents the energy that I need, the vibrational match that I need in order to achieve my goals. And I think the 7 of coins, or the 7 of pentacles, is a good representation of somebody who can be not just circumspect about where they are, but can. This is a person who is making an assessment of where they are, what skills they currently have, but what skills they also need to acquire. I think this is a card of self assessment, a card of recognizing one's assets, one's resources, one's skills, one's knowledge base, and being honest with oneself, taking the moment to assess where they are and where it is they need to go. And I think this is a good representation of that. This being requires being introspective also. It requires being honest with yourself. It requires being open, I think, to criticism, open to critique. And I think this card represents being in a place of growth, a place of knowing or a place of learning what it is you need to do in order to take yourself to the next level. Um, Whether you need to keep at what it is you're currently doing or whether you need to make some adjustments. And I think this also maybe represents taking a beat, slowing down just a little bit, um, and just kind of taking stock of where you are and where it is you want to go. So I do have a tendency to overthink and to maybe not necessarily be as grounded as I need to do or need to be rather. And I think this card represents taking that time to, you know, that time to reflect on where it is you are and where it is you want to go. So I think this is a really appropriate card for the energy that it is that I need in order to take myself to where I want to be. So let's go on to the next card. All right, and the next card in my spread talks about how to get into alignment for the manifestation that I'm looking for, the manifestation of Mother of Coins soft life. And I like that the Six of Coins is the card that comes up. Six of Coins or Six of Pentacles represents generosity, represents sharing. I dare say it represents leaving behind a scarcity mindset. I think a lot of people who talk about manifestation, they talk about mindset work. Mindset work is actually very, very important as far as reaching the goal that you want to reach. And you have to shift your mind before you can maybe shift your actions, before you can shift what it is you're doing. And if you're in a space of generosity, if you're stepping out of a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset, you're more likely to give more. I think you're less likely to obsess over your own problems. One thing I've found is when I'm taking my mind off of myself and putting it on ways that I can be of benefit to others, or at the very least, ways where I can be out of my own head and just, be active, I tend to be in a better space. And who doesn't love giving? If you have the chance to give or if you've got something to give. Um, I think generosity and an open heart and an open hand when it comes to wanting to achieve your goals, I think that's a very good thing to do. And of course, again, the pentacles slash coins, they they can be a very literal representation of money, but you can be generous with other things too that matter. You can be generous with your knowledge. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your love and your care. You can be generous in thinking when it comes to other people. And I think when you put yourself in a space where you're less scarcity minded, where you're less likely to hoard, or where you have this belief that there is enough to go around, and if you give, more will come. I like the idea of just, maybe not clamping down too hard on your resources. This isn't to say that you should go out and be a spendthrift or be wasteful, but if you can put your resources, your time, your money, your knowledge, your skill toward things that benefit other people, I think it does put you in a good place to receive. It puts you in a good mindset of knowing that more will come to you. You're not you're not going to actually a good way to one thing that I've been thinking about it is knowing that more will come to you as you give, not clamping down on a dollar or whatnot as if it's the last dollar you'll ever receive, but just kind of being open to the idea that, I mean, it's biblical, given it shall be given unto you, that sort of thing. And so I think this card, the Six of Coins, is a good representation of a good way to get into alignment with an abundant lifestyle, an abundant mindset. And of course, just kind of giving and being a generous person, I think that makes people want to give and be generous to you. And so I think this is a very appropriate card for a law of manifestation reading. So this is definitely something that I will keep in mind. And next, let's move on to the last. Okay, and finally, in the fifth position, the card of letting go of the how. This is the Eight of Coins. And this card represents diligence, just represents continuing your work, just going about your business and letting go of control over the outcome. Essentially, it's doing your work, doing it to the highest quality that you can, and just keeping at it. And, not worrying about whether it's good enough or not worrying about who's going to gravitate toward it. It's just kind of being diligent. And if you're familiar at all with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you look at that particular Eight of Pentacles, you've got somebody who is, you know, minting out a pentacle. Or in this case, if we look at this card, we have somebody who appears to be writing or reading or creating. Um, I think maybe as a bonus, maybe I will refer directly to the guidebook for this particular deck. But just kind of looking at this card, you see somebody who is working diligently. They're very focused on the task in front of them. And I think this card represents focusing on your quality, focusing on the thing that is in your control, which is marshaling your skills and your resources and your assets to the highest degree. Being diligent in your practice, being diligent in your growth as a person, and focusing on what you can focus on. Focus on bettering yourself, on enriching yourself. And the chips will fall where they may. Diligence is really important. The diligence, there is generosity, there is being introspective, taking stock of what it is you have, and of course, just stepping out there, putting out your shingle, stepping out in faith and doing what it is you do. And it's interesting that this card, of course, comes before all of the other cards. So sometimes, just stepping out in faith and everything else will take care of itself. See, so I think this was a very helpful, very inspiring reading. And I hope this reading has been insightful for anybody else who'd like to maybe gravitate toward their own soft life, their own mother of coins energy. And if you were able to get something out of this reading, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Or if looking at the cards, you have another interpretation, another read of these particular cards, let me know in the comments. I'm still growing as a reader, and any insights that other readers might have will be very, very beneficial. And I appreciate that very much. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this reading, and hopefully, this has been of value to you, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're getting something out of this, please consider subscribing or leave a like. And until next time.